Hey YouTube, reminder, if you want a lesson with me to talk about literally what we're going to talk about today, check the link in the description and we'll figure something out. So, I had a lesson today actually. I was working with a bass trombonist and I was kind of like warming up alongside him, doing some back and forth stuff, and I realized, and I think I'd done the same thing the day before and kind of figured it out, that I was using too much pressure. And I especially do this in videos when I'm talking to you guys, and in lessons when I'm talking a lot. For some reason, some part of my set, breathe, play thing gets kind of like messed up, and I'll start using too much pressure. But every once in a while, that just happens anyway. And that was happening today. And I was like, you know what? Let's talk about how the chops work using a rubber band. So, just like anything else using a metaphor, this is overly simplified, and this is not like the end-all be-all of knowledge here. But the idea is that this rubber band is your chops, like top lip and bottom lip. And, you know, that's what makes the sound, right? It's not necessarily the chops themselves, it's the air passing through the chops that makes the sound. But we need to make sure that these are in kind of like the right place, or we don't get sound, right? If we try and do this with the horn over here, that's not going to work. But if I want the mouthpiece to be like coming out of the back of my head, that's not going to work either. So we need everything to be in just the right place. And I think this is a pretty good way to visualize it. So, yeah, I have my fingers on the ends here. That's what I consider to be the corners, the muscles below the corners of our mouth. The muscles are not like literally here. They're kind of here, pulling down. And so, if you're like me, and you're using the corners correctly, but you're pulling the chops away from the middle, or if you have a smile embouchure, and you're using the muscles kind of like up here in the cheeks, and pulling them away, but up, then what happens? We do this. And instead of your chops being able to nice and easily vibrate with the air passing by, like I can do right here, it's nice and easy, right? Instead of that, we get this, where it's kind of reticent to vibrate. You have to put in a lot of effort to make them move. And that translates to too much air and probably not being able to play like soft or high or low or any of those kind of things. You can kind of only play in a certain range, and you can only do it like really loud or whatever. So instead, we want to have our corners engaged. That's my fingers on the ends of the rubber band here, but not pulling away from the middle. So we want everything to be engaged, everything to be in the right place. And of course, this is not an exact representation of this. There's a lot of muscles and stuff going on. We want it to be simple, right? And then there's the other way, where you're not engaging anything, and you're just kind of putting the mouthpiece on the face and going, bleh. And that's when we get this. Just kind of like the chops are just kind of hanging out. And that also requires way too much air, because then you're requiring the air to bring the chops together and vibrate. You notice they're not actually touching. I could hold it like this, and that's like the lips touching, because our lips do touch when we play. This is just a way to visualize it. And if we start like this with no muscles engaged, you know, something has to come together, whether it be the mouthpiece literally just like being in the way to bring the chops together. That's not an ideal way either, right? You want those corners to be engaged so this stuff can easily vibrate. And then the other thing that can prevent that vibration, which is how we make noise, air passing through the chops, is pressure, right? So we have pulling away, we have not using anything, and then we have pressure, which is the mouthpiece on the chops, preventing things from vibrating as well. So I'll flip this around. We'll say the side facing me is the front of the chops. Instead, that'd be like the mouthpiece is here, right? And if it's pressing too hard, then these have no chance of vibrating, right? But if there's no mouthpiece at all, then you're just free buzzing and you're not even playing. So again, every one of these things, this and this, the pressure, all these things are like the Goldilocks zone, finding the middle ground that works the best. Excuse me. It's never full engagement of everything, pulling the chops away as hard as you can. It's not complete relaxation where you're asleep or whatever. It's not mouthpiece completely mashing into the face, like moving your teeth. And it's not like hanging the trombone from a string from the ceiling and like barely playing with any pressure, right? There's a middle ground for every one of these things. And for everybody, that's going to be a different middle ground. So experiment with these things. Try and get that visualization in your head. The corners engaged, the missiles below here. The pressure being just right and letting the air do the work that it's supposed to do. And if you do all these things, you'll probably play better and sound better. And if you have a problem with any of these things, let me know in the comments, because, I don't know, I'm not always right. And I'll see you guys next time.